Can take our seats, that would be wonderful, and we'll make a start. Thank you, members. Thank you for joining us for tonight's CFG meeting, a special meeting of CFG, and we'll declare the meeting open at 6:05 p.m. I'd like to declare this committee meeting open and advise that the meeting will be recorded and streamed live to the City of Adelaide website. Please note that an audio and visual recording of the meeting is being taken. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside of Australia. We'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting tonight in the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains. Pay our respects to their elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people who are living today. We also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations who are present here today. Apologies and leaves of absence. We've just recently had an apology from Councillor Cavada, so we wish him well. We have a declaration of a conflict of interest. Do any members have a declaration they'd like to make? No, there are none. I'll move on to agenda item number 4. There are no deputations. Agenda item number 5. So members, we have two agenda items, 5.1 and 5.2, as per the papers. So Mr. Spitalis will introduce us to 5.1. We'll work our way through that, receive feedback, and then move on to 5.2. We're with you, Mr. Spitalis.
Through the Chair, I'm going to keep this very brief. This is the standard report that we present each year in terms of updating our fees and charges. I'm just going to take the report as read and happy to take any questions that you may have.
Members' questions. Any questions for agenda item 5.1? Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Look, I note the administration's... and look, thank you for the papers. The print was especially clear. I don't think I could read any of it, but I did manage to find a magnifying glass and that helped enormously. But anyway, going to the discussion paper, 12.3 and 12.4, could the administration take me through the reason for the rationale for the introduction of a new fee for a 30-minute on-street parking fee on weekends, and 12.4, the replacement of the weekend flat fee for on-street parking with a maximum fee per applicable time limit?
Mr. Philibert or Mrs. McCready?
Looking for someone to come forward and speak to the question. Mr. Philippi, thank you. So the question's in relation to 12.2 and 12.3 in
12.3 and 12.4.
Oh, 12.3 and 12.4, my apologies. Councillor Martin.
Through the Chair, sorry for the delay, I'm just reacquainting myself with the report. The introduction of those two rates are to provide maximum rates during those periods of time to promote turnover of parking during those times. They are maximum rates, so the application of those rates falls under the fees and charges under delegation to be able to provide that opportunity when, if needed.
For the sake of clarity, what is the weekend flat fee that is being replaced?
Through the Chair, just need a minute to get to the actual attachment, find that number.
So we'll just pause for a moment here, members, while we get access to the attachment. Perhaps a point of clarification as well, further Councillor Martin's question. Have these previously been flagged in workshops or papers presented to the Council?
Through the Chair, I'll need to take that on notice and understand what has and hasn't been presented, but I'm just getting confused with all of the CFGs we've had.
Members, we're
Can you just put your microphone on, CEO? Thanks.
Members, we're referring to attachment B, page 16 of your agenda papers. I think the fee we're talking about, the maximum weekend 1 hour to 10 hour zone maximum rate, that's the rate we're talking about, a half hour fee of $2.80. The rationale is it's a new fee to accommodate short-term parkers on weekends.
Look, perhaps I can help the administration. Having been through this before in a previous council, the decision was taken after representation from various groups, including the Rundle Mall Management Authority, retail traders and the like, to introduce, or replace at least, hourly charges and 2-hour maximums at weekends that applied on weekdays to a flat fee on Saturdays and Sundays to encourage city visitation and shopping, attendance at sporting events. Is this a reversal of what was that decision of a previous council's to introduce parking that would encourage city visitation, that is flat fee, single charge parking?
Through the chair, I wouldn't call it a reversal, but more to look for a balance between finding turnover to support retail as well as providing the opportunity for recreation as well. So the current structure we have on weekends is that there's it's free parking from I think it's midday on Saturday right through till Sunday night in most areas that are not directly affected by retail. This provides an opportunity for there to be an incentive for turnover of those parking arrangements and to give more service to short-term arrangements in retail strips. And then if it becomes cost prohibitive, then there's a promotion to get into off-street parking arrangements.
Look, I understand that, and I understand there's a distinction between metered parking areas and charges not applying after midday or whatever hours determined on a Saturday, but there are discrete areas throughout the city, all along the riverbank, Victoria Drive and up, which are at weekends flat fee, single charge parking. Are they impacted by this?
Through you, presiding member, we'll take that on notice, but to come back to Mr. Philpo's commentary, the intention of this is not to disadvantage people coming into the city. It's actually to incentivise in regards to short-term parking and turnover of parking. But we'll come back with that matter and present it to you for review.
Well, look, let me ask another question. Have we consulted the Rundle Mall Management Authority through AEDA to discuss these changes?
through the presiding member, I'm not sure these fees would be applicable to the customers of the Rundle Mall. We're talking about timed parking in bordering the parklands? On street. So on street zones, not Rundle Mall. There's no on-street parking in Rundle Mall. It's all
No, I understand, CEO. The zones I'm talking about extend from Rundle Mall to the north, to the south, and over into the east. And the intention has been, in particular areas, not all of those parts, to offer single fee, all-day parking to encourage retail shopping and attendance at events. If that is changing, then I need to know, because I won't be able to support this proposal, not without an understanding of where it's coming from, the extent to which it's supported by the Retail Trades Association, Rundle Mall Management Authority and so forth. This is, reading the papers, is the first notification I've had of this, and therefore it would make it difficult for me to support this. But additionally, the introduction of a new 30-minute fee, again, I need to understand what that's all about. It just seems to me to be lacking in detail.
So can I just summarise the feedback there, Councillor Martin, as I understand it, is that seeking further information on exactly where this will have an impact, what the cost of that is and who the stakeholders have been engaged. Yeah, great. Thank you. I note that we've got an undertaking at the moment to provide that information. We'll have to wait and see what that can be provided before we need to vote on this item. Mr.
Through
McCready.
presiding member, having spoken to the CEO, if there's some conflict in regards to that, we'll just remove those fees, and then if we need to come back to council, we'll come back. But the intention is engagement with Rundle Mall has been mainly around off-street car parking and the availability of short-term parking spaces, which we are pretty reasonable in regards to the market, and we turn over our bays. On street, the priority for us is short-term parking and loading zones. That's the conversations we've had with Rundle Mall.
I've got quite a few hands going up. I just want to deal with this while we're on it. So what hearing from the administration is that if there is a conflict, that can be removed and perhaps reintroduced at a later stage. So just following up on your questions, Councillor Martin, is whether we actually need to, whether you'll be moving an amendment to that effect when we get to the motion.
Look, I'm happy.
Presiding member, could I assist?
Sure.
In the interest of you moving this item on. We're talking about a schedule of fees and charges that are set under delegation. Okay. To move this item forward and get to the substantive business, I'd suggest we could add the words exclusive of the new fees described at para 12.3 and 12.4 of the report. That takes them out.
Look, I'm happy with that, CEO.
And we can, noting that they are fees under delegation, we can provide advice and then come back and put them in place.
Thank you for that support. We'll go back to Councillor Martin. I know, Councillor Couros, you've got your hand up. There's a few others as well. So just rounding this out, Councillor Martin.
Look, I would be happy with the undertaking to come back to us on this and with the amendment proposed by the CEO. Yes, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Martin. So I have Councillor Marr next, then the Lord Mayor, then Councillor Couros.
Thanks, Chair. I put my hand up for just a clarifying question on Councillor Martin's point. Actually, I have other questions, but I might come back to them because I don't want to muddy the waters here. I want to check my understanding, and perhaps this will help us all with this point. On the weekend, if you park in a 1 hour to a 10-hour zone, you put money in the meter in half-hour increments. Is that correct?
Through the chair at the moment, you pay a flat fee. So
No, sorry, in this proposal, I mean, in this proposal. Right. And so putting that in a half-hour increment, the maximum half-hour increment rate is $2.80. Is that what this is proposing?
Through the chair, in areas where the fee would be applied, then that is what this proposes, yes.
To a maximum of $5.60, correct?
That's correct, yep.
When you hit the $5.60, that'll be about an hour and 10 minutes or so. You can still park there for the full 10 hours if that's the appropriate signage, but it's setting that you pay by half hour, $2.80 by half hour if it applies at all. And then once you've put in a maximum of $5.60, you can stay there for the full duration of the car park. Is that
Councillor Mark, can I just check? I think it's an interesting line of question, but I wonder whether we'd better ask the administration to provide us with that detail rather than putting them on the spot now. Or could we have an undertaking to get some further details?
I guess I'm just asking just to make sure I'm understanding how this works, and maybe in asking the question explains how it works for the other councillors, because I don't actually think this is that bad, knowing that it's going to apply not necessarily in the locations that Councillor Martin was referring to. I'd be happy for this to go through as is.
Okay.
But I don't think it's, I don't really see why we're concerned about this. I don't think it does what you say it does.
So when we get to that part of it, you can choose to vote against it, Councillor.
Oh, I'm not going to vote against it, obviously, I don't
You
choose
choose.
support, but I think we might just be
Note your comments
misunderstanding
around that one.
I did have other questions, but I'll come back to them.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, Councillor Marr. Lord Mayor, then Councillor Couros.
Nothing to say, let's move on.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Couros.
I don't know where this is, but only to say that I just think to receive the thing.
Councillor Couros, you just try again on the
No, it's Chris Merriman. I moved things. Because I have no connection.
I'm going to tap you back in, Councillor Couros.
Is that better? I just want to express my frustration in the sense that we're getting this tonight and then we're going into a council meeting to vote on it. And there's clearly a misunderstanding, there's clearly a lot of questions, there's clearly more clarity that is required. And I would think that this would be more appropriate if we had be able to bring it in next council meeting to have a better discussion and understanding of the fees and charges. I don't think it's appropriate to bring it through a special meeting right before a council meeting for us to vote on it. And I don't think this is a good way to be a good governance and a good way for us to be making decisions, because clearly there are questions.
Thank you, Councillor Couros. Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a procedural question. Given one of the fees and charges prescribed in here relates to outdoor dining fees for areas of low pedestrian activity, and this assumes no change to the current rate, I did circulate an amendment on what that rate should be. I just wanted to check if this is adopted as written and an amendment is put to council to change the rate, would this adopted fee and charges schedule prevent that amendment from occurring?
So my understanding is if this goes through now, you still have a right to move an amendment at the coming council meeting. I think my preference would be it's going to be a bit cleaner to get an amendment done now. That way it makes it easy when we get in the chamber.
There's nothing before the committee regarding the outdoor dining item. It's coming through to council on the recommendation of last week's CFG.
So we're just clarifying, the CEO's pointing out that there's nothing specifically raised here in relation to outdoor dining fees, so it is actually not what I said. It's more effective to actually bring it into the chamber.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
I've got other hands going up here. I had Councillor Martin and Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Chair. And my question is one of explanation, really, seeking to understand the introduction of a permit fee for commercial advertising on static displays on approved low-impact facilities. What is that?
Ms Podolyak.
Through the Chair, that new fee is effectively for static advertising on telephone boxes. So you would remember that last year we introduced a new fee for digital advertising on telephone boxes, Telstra boxes. We make about $7,000 effectively at that. The piece that we miss is also static advertising, and so based on benchmarking, we believe about $1,000 is the fee that's appropriate.
And just a point of clarification, it's only on telephone boxes that this applies to?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I'll be looking for a mover in a moment. Councillor Marr.
I'll be happy to move it after my question, if you like.
Let's take your question, and then I'm noting that we do have it in a varied form here at the moment.
Sure. There's two questions. One, just to check my understanding of the rest of the room, the POA means the price will depend on whatever the issue is. We don't actually have to set a fee as such. There are several of them. Is that correct?
Question for the administration.
Through the Chair, I was going to ask Councillor Marr to direct us to where it is in the document, which may allow us to respond.
Unless you've
got
I was going to say, through the Chair, it is depending on the nature of the fee, so it's a price on application. So sometimes the size and quantum will dictate the ultimate fee that is charged.
So through
yes.
the Chair, for some, it might include effectively dog and cats where we need them homed essentially if they're through various welfare parties and so forth. So we would get a price on application and pass that cost through.
Whatever the cost is. Okay, so that's why we're not setting a charge there. And the other question that I have, the last question, is most of these charges are going up by 3 to 5%. And then on paper page 14, we've got the higher fees for the piano and the organ at Town Hall going up by 10%. Can I get an explanation on that one, please?
Yeah, we've done some benchmarking effectively, both nationally and within the state, and we think that that's more appropriate in terms of the fees. We've been under-indexed in terms of that space.
Wonderful, thank you. So Councillor Maher, you're happy to move this. So this is now an alternative motion. So we've got the red text in there that was provided by the CEO. So you're happy to move that?
I'm happy to move that in there, or we can come back to that.
Councillor Martin, I know that you
So
originally flagged the issue. You're happy to second that? I am. Would the mover like to speak to it?
No further comments
No.
at this time.
The second like to speak? Any comments on the motion as it stands? No. Okay. Would you like to sum up?
No.
Summed up. Okay, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that carried. So that's agenda item 5.1, members. Now 5.2, Mr. Spitalis, would you like to introduce this for us?
Through the chair, again, I'm going to keep this brief. It is the culmination of various CEO briefings, workshops, and feedback that we've received along the way, seeking to get an annual business plan and budget that we can take out to the community for consultation. Take the report as read. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spitalis. Councillor Martin?
Yes, Chair, I have an alternative motion, which I sent a short while ago to the administration, which is there. And
Thank you.
I seek a seconder.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Martin's alternative motion? We'll give members a moment to read through what's in front of us. So we've got 4 elements there that are proposed as changes. So if someone has read through it is happy to second it, please indicate. Councillor Marr, you're happy to second? Oh, your question?
I'm happy to second it just for the purpose.
For the purpose of the debate? Okay, so if I can just pause for a moment, Councillor Marr. So I have a seconder. So this is now being, we have a mover and a second for this alternate motion. Question, Councillor Marr.
The point 3 has some numbers in it. Are those numbers still accurate with the changes to 1?
Sorry, can you clarify which one were you referring to there, Councillor Marr?
The capital expenditure, for example,
Yep.
94 million, but we just added $2 million at the 1B.
So you're saying that if the
So yeah, I guess I'm asking,
wording,
is it consistent?
if the very wording goes through, do we need to make an amendment to section or part 3? Mrs. Spitalis, the CEO, what's your advice in relation?
Through the presiding member, certainly for item B, we would need to increase the capital expenditure budget figure by $2 million. In terms of C, I'm reading the interpreter, and I need to clarify with the mover whether that's a net sum gain, increasing the allocation with a matching contribution to be sourced from state.
That is matching the 1.5 million.
With a matching contribution of 1.5 million.
Councillor Martin, would you be happy as the mover to speak to the alternate motion here to provide some background on the reasons for the changes?
Please.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Look, the entirety of the budget is, for me, great. I'm very happy that the budget addresses some of the major issues that Council has had, particularly in regard to budget repair. This is the final budget of this council, which inherited a parlous financial situation, which has now been restored to the extent that we are delivering not only budget surpluses, but additionally a capital works program that in terms of managing assets is close to 95% of the required capital and would, I think, satisfy even ASCOSA's demands. However, there are a couple of things within this document that I think do require some thought and attention. And the first one I'm somewhat constrained by, particularly as the matter is dealt with in the council meeting in a section which has not yet been discussed. But I think in understanding the Main Street program that is outlined within the pages of the document presented to us at page 56, there's a great deal of emphasis placed on the contribution of the Main Street renewals to our aspirations to provide interesting, purposeful and safe places. And a deal of discussion around page 101 on the amounts of money that are allocated to them. But there's no real allocation discussed in any detail. No detail that surrounds what is actually proposed, nor indeed the timelines for each project. And I think a further and more detailed account of that would assist our ratepayers in understanding where this project is and what is the intention of council. In respect of B, I am aware, and all of us have been aware during discussions in the lead up to this process, that there has been no funding provided for the program to extend tree canopy in the city of Adelaide. Now, this is, for me, a centrepiece of this council's work over the past 4 years. We have... May I have a moment?
Is the extension sought? All those in favour, can please continue.
We have pursued a target of about 400 trees a year, and because of the complications in delivering the program, not least placing trees in the middle of areas that have complicated underground systems, concrete barriers and the like, delivered only 200. However, it is a commitment, and I think it sends a clear message to the community that in terms of our approach to dealing with climate change, greening, extending the canopy is a vital program. If it is missing from the budget, then that declaration is also missing. And I think it is important to have that in there. And I think most of the people in this room would endorse that. In respect of the further amendment in relation to school safety, that allocation has been previously foreshadowed in a program that is anticipated to cost somewhere between $35 and $40 million over a 10-year period, most of it unfunded. And therefore the allocation represents a small portion of money to go towards a small part of a bigger program, which frankly suggests that we're not serious about it. And yet we ought to be. It ought to be an important part of not only the council's approach, but I think, and I'm foreshadowing something that will come later, part of our integrated transport strategy to ensure that kids are able to go to and from school safely. And I know that in my own patch, they are screaming for minor adjustments that will, though costly, provide greater safety. And Chair, if I may just have indulgence for 1 second longer.
Yes.
The final matter relates to the CEO briefing papers that were delivered to us on the 23rd of March, when AIDA presented to us a fairly modest proposal for a small business program, which I've referenced because every member can look at the papers, which was going to produce a return on investment that was substantial to the point that I think it was irresistible. And in all of the discussion about AIDA, and there have been some positive views and some negative views about programs that have been put forward, this one stood out. And therefore I'm proposing that as an organisation committed to an economic strategy, yet unfunded, this is a very significant step and one that we ought to embrace. The balance of what's proposed is as printed by the administration, and I'm happy to speak further to it later.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. So just to clarify, this $307,000 is on top of what was already built into the budget for AIDA?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I have a seconder, and then
Can I seek clarification regarding that?
absolutely, yes, yeah.
So I'm just trying to make sure we kept the numbers right.
Yep.
The budget before you does provide for an additional allocation of 742,000 to AIDA. Is the 307 to be funded from that allocation?
It's on top of.
So therefore, there's a $307,000 hole in the operating budget.
It's more than that.
So it's an additional 307,000 is what's proposed.
In the operating budget is what I'm referring to.
Yes.
And what's council's view about that?
I think we may hear a further amendment proposed shortly, CEO, which may go some way to tackling that.
What about the hole in the other ones?
Sorry, just pause for a moment, Councillor Couros, I'll come to you.
The other elements relate to the capital program, which is simply an uplift on the new and upgrade. If I can clarify the mover's intent, there's a $705,000 increment to the school safety implementation project.
Correct.
And then a doubling of that 1510 funded by state government.
That is the intention.
So that would increase the gross project to 3,020,000.
That's correct, CEO. That would be less than 10%.
I'm just seeking clarification of the intent.
Yes.
And that would be subject as well to the state government making an equal dollar for dollar contribution.
Correct.
Thank you. Any further clarification, CEO? I think we'll have some further numbers to add up when we get through an amendment that I believe is coming. Well, just on the 2 million, my understanding is that we have currently an underspend of 2 million on tree planting in the FY26 budget. Is that correct?
So we'd make a commensurate adjustment in the next quarterly review.
So essentially this is a carrying forward of unspent funds from this year into next year. So there actually has no impact on the capital budget for next year.
Chair, sorry, could I have that explained?
Councillor Martin?
Could I have that explained?
Yeah, CEO, could we just clarify that the management of the dollars there for the greening program?
Certainly. So based on my understanding of the intent to reflect a greening program in 26-27 through the inclusion of this amendment, the current allocation in the 25-26 business plan and budget is in excess of 4 million. It's very clear to your administration that we're not going to spend that 4 million in 25-26. I'm interpreting this amendment to recognise what would be a logical carry forward from 5-6 into 6-7. So all I'm suggesting is at Q2 we would recognise an uplift in 6-7 compared to an adjustment in 5-6.
Is that the intention of the mover?
It is, and if the CEO could provide sufficient wording to reflect that within there, I'd be very happy about that.
Through the presiding member, I think the intent's clear. We are yet to bring the Q3 quarterly review through to committee next month. We'll make sure that compensating adjustment is provided for.
Then I would be happy with that, Chair.
Great, thank you. Now, I do have a list to work through here. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've just noted you down as well. So I'm going to go to the seconder, and then it was Councillor Freeman. And then after that, just so everyone knows who they are, Councillor Couros, Councillor Noon, and Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor. Councillor Giles. As a seconder? Oh, nothing. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'll reserve my right.
You're reserved, you're right. Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to start with a question and ask about the greening program and whether, noting there is an underspend in the current financial year, whether amending the wording to make it clear that the carryover from the current financial year would be beneficial to the administration. But I think I just heard the CEO say that's not necessary.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, thank you. Then I would like to move an amendment in addition to this list. So we've had the feedback many times that if we want to fund additional things, the money needs to come from somewhere. What I'm seeing in this list, in the black from Councillor Martin, is consistent with community priorities that we have thrashed in this chamber since I started 6 months ago. I do think that these are priorities right now, and the funding
Sorry, could I just check before we go on, Councillor Martin, do you have a seconder?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that.
Even for the sake of debate, seconder? Now, Councillor Martin, you can second it.
Had somebody moved the first one?
Yes, so what's, just to keep us up to date, so the original alternative motion was used, but moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Giles. We now have an amendment to the alternate motion. The amendment has been moved by Councillor Freeman, and it's now been seconded by Councillor Martin. Councillor
Thank
Freeman,
you,
back to
Chair. I did forget that my amendment needs to be seconded. So, look, effectively, I think this revised list are things that are a priority for this financial year that we have talked about extensively, but it has to come at a cost. I have scrutinised the budget significantly to look at what is not time critical for this financial year. In my opinion, there was a significant allocation of over $1 million for undergrounding of power lines on West Pallant Street. That would be very nice for the residents of West Pallant Street, but it is a nice to have. And I think in the context of needing to fund community priorities we agree on, I am suggesting that we defer that by 12 months to be revisited in the next financial year. And I also understand that both of these investments and that undergrounding activity is delivered in partnership with SAPN. There was no contribution from SAPN in the budget proposed. That's interesting to me. I think that a deferral allows a conversation to happen about potential contribution either from SAPN or I'm not sure what other entities are involved there. But look, in summary, I thought this would warrant from a 12-month delay, both from a funding perspective, but also unlocking opportunity for community priorities that, in my opinion, do take precedence.
Councillor Freeman, just a couple of clarifications regarding the amendments. So the first one is we've got the previous Part A struck out here. Is that intentional or should that be retained?
No, sorry, that should be retained.
That should be
Apologies.
retained, thank you.
It's only the addition of the undergrounding of power lines.
And I understand that there are also some additional amendments in red font in the email that was sent through. Are there other elements to this amendment that you also want included? Sorry to be vague, but I'm not sure what those additional pieces are. Governance will come around
Chair, they
and...
are not. That captures it.
That captures
Yes.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So A is unchanged.
So-
My amendment.
And also to clarify, so A will go back into black font now, so it's not part of the amendment. So the amendment only relates to Part B. Thank you, Councillor Freeman. Councillor Marr, would you like to speak to the amendment?
No, but I did just want to ask a clarifying question. The addition of 1A will mean that we will not be able to see that before this goes to council in an hour. At point 7, we're authorising the CEO to make changes to the document without us getting to see it.
So just clarify, we're just focused on 1B at the moment. So if there is a question in relation to 1A, we can come back to that when this becomes
Well,
part of the
I will lose
standard
my
motion.
right to speak later if I don't speak to it now.
And my understanding, I can check this with governance, is that you're seconding an amendment here, you can still speak to the alternative motion? No? Okay, all right.
If he speaks to it, if he speaks to it, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. So, sorry, continue the question.
I just need to
So-
just clarify that the change that we've put forward here in 1A, we won't see what that explanation is, which is fine, because at 7 we're allowing the CEO to write it without further response, council response.
CEO,
Is
can
that
you,
CEO's understanding?
yeah, can you advise on this? So I think the clarification that's being sought is that part A has some elements which are, there are confidentiality provisions around some elements of 1A, and just understanding the wording that is being sought, to what extent can that be shared or not?
Through the presiding member, I believe we can find our way to navigate through that. What I'm interpreting is a narrative explanation of the staging of the Main Streets program, where this item is about endorsing the draft for the purpose of public consultation. We will need to craft the narrative, share it via e-news, and then incorporate it in the document before, should council resolve. So
Excellent.
it's doable.
Yep.
It's doable.
I'm satisfied with that. That sounds good to me. I don't think we need to see that before we vote on this at council later. And I don't have anything to add about the amendment, the addition of the new fee.
Just a point of clarification, members, I think this is important in the amendment here. So the 460 and the 635, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 460 is coming out of capital, is that correct, in 635? Other way around, so the 460 is operating and the 635 is capital, which has an impact on the numbers that the CEO was running earlier on. Sure. So we've had, the seconder is now spoken. Are there any other speakers to the motion or to the amendment? Sorry. So just noting, I do have Lord Mayor back on the previous one, so happy to take your comment here, Lord Mayor, if you prefer.
Well, the question I had for the previous one, just to be economic, was the argument about... Microphone, sorry? Microphone.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Microphone, yes.
Leaning. The previous amendment, I'm very uneasy about the schools because I can't follow whether we're still budgeting even if we don't get the money. I think the wording needs to be tidied up by the CEO. But in terms of this, I actually think it may be just a small number of people, but they have an expectation. And I have to say, power lines are a curse. They're a risk, they're a danger, they're unsightly, and they're a disgrace. And we've had some big streets that have been undergrounded, but the little streets labour on with Stobie poles that are essentially killers. They're dangerous, they're unsightly, and we are very slow to remove them, and I'm deeply resentful about losing one. My street was put on the undergrounding list in 91. We got to the top in 1999. It was deferred, and I'm still waiting. And I think that it really does produce resentment when residential streets are just dropped off the list. I think we shouldn't do it. We could. I understand you're just slowing it. You're not stopping it. But I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Kouros?
I 100% agree with the Lord Mayor in regards to the power lines. I understand that Councillor Freeman isn't new to council, but this has been a trial street. It's not what the residents have demanded. It's something that council has been looking at undergrounding. I think even Councillor Snape has been trying to champion it in his area. It's a very important part of improving the safety aspect, and to defer this is actually going to, as the Lord Mayor said, going to impact the ability for us to continue going down this path of ensuring that we can get to these projects. So very clearly, it wasn't something that the residents demanded. It was identified by administration as a trial street, and it was one that we could have had some quick wins and understanding how we can get this matter moved along to the rest of some other small streets within the city of Adelaide. So I won't be supporting that. I also am cautious in regards to the school safety. I like the CEO was confused. I think this is. I don't understand what the contribution, whether we're going to get that from the state government. I'd rather implement that in a plan for future, not within this budget. A small business program I quite like. We know that was a quick win for within the AIDA, what they presented to us. But I won't be supporting this. Obviously, Councillor Freeman and Councillor Martin have collaborated very well over it, but I don't think that they've really taken into account the serious need and what the city does need, and I think it has holes in it.
Thank you, Councillor Couros. Councillor Martin and Councillor Snape.
Mine was a question, really. Let me just say I endorse all that has been said in respect of the undergrounding, but I'm wondering whether the amendment can be taken in parts.
So the amendment being Part B, whether it can be taken in parts, or do you mean the alternative motion from earlier on?
Well, I'm assuming that each of the parts constitutes the amended motion. We're just going to vote
just
on
to,
this.
just to clarify, so we're currently with the amendment, which has been moved by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Meyer. We'll put the amendment, which is Part B, to the vote.
Just Part B.
That's right, just Part B. Then
Thank
once
you.
we've dealt with that, whether it's in or out, we'll come to the substantive alternate motion and deal with that in parts.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Councillor Snape, then Councillor Marr, and then Councillor Giles, and then.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm just speaking on the amendment, so I can reserve my right to speak on the wider motion later on. I thank Councillor Freeman for her diligent efforts to try and find such savings. However, and I also thank Councillor Couros for the acknowledgement. I myself have been fighting really hard for several streets to have undergrounding in South Ward, and unfortunately to no success because of the costs involved and the lack of support from the state government in funding for that, specifically PLEC. So I'm not going to support this amendment because I do think the residents of West Parliament Street do deserve this upgrade. I think, especially considering the conversations and the information we've seen from the CEO in regards to the 2 million for the greening, etc., etc. I don't think the budget is as in financial strife as it could have been had that not been the case. So I think we can afford to do this for the residents, and as Councillor Couros says, this is an important trial project, and I support it going ahead. So I won't be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Snape. Question, Councillor Marr.
Yes, why the priority for West Plant Street and not any other street?
CEO.
Through the presiding member, West Plant Street and the implications of power line undergrounding were a matter of a report to Council in October 24 at the request of Council. There is a resolution on the books that supports the inclusion of these two items in your draft business plan and budget. Your administration is effectively acting on an instruction of Council.
No, it was actually a recommendation from it.
So is that a question? I can come back to you with a question, Councillor Couros. So Councillor Couros, can we just keep our order? I'm happy to come back to you.
Because I'm struggling to see the objective priority here. I can think of several streets in South Ward and Central Ward that have stoke poles in the pedestrian access. You know, you can't get a wheelchair up the road because there's a stoke pole.
So just asking a question or speaking to it?
Well, this is really my question. I really
don't.
don't understand what's happened here with the priority, the prioritisation. Was there a prioritisation done to put West Plant at the top of the pile here?
I understand the question, but we've already had a response from the CEO.
And then the second question.
Mr McCready, sorry, I didn't see a hand going up there.
Through you, presiding member, thank you for the question, Councillor. First of all, just to go back to what's being made comment on this street, this is a pilot. It's a pilot, and the reality is it could be any street. But this was a street that was identified because it's one that we could move pretty quickly on in regards to 2 to 3 Stobie poles. So from our perspective, council have a commitment and they wish us to progress with undergrounding. If you do not do this, then you do not have an undergrounding project. And in relation to the SA Power Networks and whatever contributions, we've actually engaged with SA Power Networks, and they have got nothing within their forward schedule that talks about undergrounding. So the costs that are there are solely borne by the City of Adelaide in regards to both capital and strategic.
And if SAPN don't come to the party, does the whole thing fall over? Can we do it without them?
Mr McCready?
Through you, presiding member, this project, if it's allocated the way it's allocated, we can do West Palant, and naturally we will provide a list in regards to the potential projects, but it comes at cost. I would hope, and I think there needs to be a more mature conversation in regards to the city and Stobie poles and overhead cables moving towards an undergrounding solution like most capital cities, and that's something that we could progress through both SAPN and the state government.
Thank you, Mr McCready. So, rounds out questions from Councillor Marv, got Councillor Giles, and then Deputy Lord Mayor. You speak, Councillor Giles, you're speaking to the motion?
Yeah, look,
The
amendment. Yeah.
Got it.
Look, I'm supporting the amendment because, and I thank Councillor Marr for his questions. I had the same questions. I would prefer us to have a more strategic approach to looking at undergrounding, and if we can defer for a year to explore the issues and have a more mature discussion with South Australian Power Network, state government about this, and have a good look overall at the whole city about where the priorities are, it gives us a chance to defer, to actually do that in the following year. We've deferred other things in this budget. I think this is a good one to do. Otherwise what happens is that the loudest voices get the action. I'll tell you one place in the city that's got 3 Stobie poles left in it, and that's Whitmore Square. There are 3 Stobie poles in Whitmore Square, all the others have been undergrounded, and there's 3 sitting there and have been for some time. But so it's about where we want to put our priorities, and I think that it's important that we have a broader discussion than something that happened quite a few years ago in one street, because we need to look at this more strategically and work out where the real need is. So I'll be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Look, this is a really interesting one because I had questions that were similar to Councillor Giles and Councillor Marr. I agree with this, but I disagree as well. I agree because I actually think that this is cherry picking to a certain extent, and I actually agree that we should have a strategic lens on all of this. We should do an audit across the city. We should actually have a look at what, and prioritise through that process. However, and it's a big however, I don't want to be an Indian giver here. We have committed, and I think we have to stick to that commitment. And we have a whole lot of people that actually believe that this is going ahead, and we can't just change our mind and just say, well, it doesn't suit us now. I actually think that we should have gone about this differently, but we didn't. Sins of the past. At the end of the day, I will not be supporting this, even though I tend to, but I won't be for the reasons that I just stated.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. We'll now come back to the mover of the amendment, which is Councillor Freeman. Councillor Freeman, would you like to sum up?
Love to sum up, Chair. Look, first of all, this is not being scratched from the list. It is only being delayed by 12 months because we have other things that we've said are more important. It's budget time. We have to prioritise. It's not nice to take funds from somewhere and put them somewhere else, but that's what we have to do. Money doesn't grow on trees, and we've put in additional projects here that at the moment are not funded. This would fund them. I find it interesting that we've talked extensively about the residents wanting this when Councillor Kouros said, in fact, they didn't want this. The selection of West Palant Street came from the administration, and yes, I am new, but I do my homework. The recommendation put to Council on the 15th of October 2024 was not to proceed with West Palin Street, and council went against that. So the residents don't want it. The administration recommended not to. Why is this a priority at the expense of trees, school safety, and small business support? For the price of $1 million, we can defer, not cancel, thank you, Councillor Couros, defer by 12 months to get a more strategic approach this project so we can get school safety, trees citywide, small business support citywide. If you don't support this, you're saying those things are not as important as one street that we can revisit in 12 months. It's that simple. I really encourage members to think carefully about this and support this amendment. It gives us flexibility. It is not off the list. It is simply reprioritising so that we can deliver other priorities, as I said before.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman. So we're putting the amendment to the vote, 1 Part B. All those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that lost. So we'll now go back to the original alternative motion, which is without Part B. And the mover of that motion was Councillor Martin. You'd already flagged that you were seeking to take that in parts. I believe that, were there any other members who haven't spoken who wish to speak to the substantive motion? Councillor Snape.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this behind the scenes for councils involved, and I do thank them for their efforts. I think this makes sense. I'm especially keen myself to see the greening programme continue, and knowing that we have only approximately spent about half of that, and therefore, acknowledging that the 4 million greening was not put forward, but having the halved amount carried over makes logical sense. It means the project will continue at a pace that administration and our teams can commence with, and that's something that I think is important, especially in this era of climate change. Very supportive of getting more information around the Main Street upgrade, very supportive of school safety implementation. I think that's crucial. I think safety should always be of highest priority to this council and this chamber. It would be great to see if we could get that matching contribution from the state government. I am hopeful that that can happen. But regardless, it is incumbent on us to proceed and do as much as we can with the finances suggested in this amendment. In this motion. I'm not sure about D. Maybe. I'm happy to hear more discussion on that if there is more to come. I'm not strictly against it, but I have heard that it is worth its bang for buck, and if that is the case, then perhaps yes, it should be supported as well.
Thank you, Councillor Snape. Deputy Lord Mayor.
I agree with the Lord Mayor that that wording needs to be played with in C, where it's got with a matching contribution. It almost sounds like that won't go ahead unless we get the matching contribution. Is that correct?
So you're looking for a tightening up of the wording rather than an amendment?
Yeah, just tightening up. I actually think that doesn't actually read very well. It could read like it won't go ahead unless we get that matching contribution.
Yeah. CEO, would you be able to assist with some proposed wording there?
I note the comments of the Lord Mayor and the Deputy Lord Mayor. My interpretation of C is that we're increasing an $805,000 allocation to 1.510, and then considering a further uplift of 1.510 subject to a matching contribution. So I'm clear about what's proposed.
Okay, so
if you want some additional words after infrastructure projects budget, yeah, after that, in front of the with a further increase of $1,510,000.
Which is $3 million. Is that right?
So we'll just stick with the CEO. I can see where you're going, Councillor Couros. Happy for you to
with a
put an
further
amendment.
increase of thousands.
Yep,
don't
million.
indicate. Yeah, exactly the same as here.
Yeah.
Subject to a matching, a matching contribution.
Yeah, to be sought from the state government. Thank you, CEO.
Yep.
Deputy Lord Mayor, that
So
picks up on your
there's
point.
2 steps. The project goes to 1.5,
Yep.
subject to a contribution that goes to 3 million.
So it's essentially adding $805,000 into our capital budget. That's the outcome plus 1.5 that might come
No,
from
it's
state.
adding 705 plus a further
my apologies.
1.1.
My apologies, yeah.
Okay.
So let's, I think, just clarify this point. This is an important
Yeah,
one.
that's what
Councillor Freeman, I can see you've got your hand up, but let's go to the
I haven't
CEO. So
finished yet.
can we just clarify the 705,
Yeah.
and then I'll come back to Deputy Lord Mayor.
You're increasing 805 to 1510. That's a $705,000 uplift.
Yep.
Subject to a matching contribution from state, there'll be a further uplift
Yep.
of 15110.
And it's capital budget.
It's capital.
Yep. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Look, I agree with Dee, totally support that. But there are other things on the AIDA Plan B budget or whatever it was that I would support as well. So that gives amazing ROI, like Business Events Adelaide is a classic. So I'm just wondering why we're not looking at other areas as well when it comes to ROI, because that was the reason why that was actually put there.
I think we heard the explanation earlier on, Deputy Lord Mayor, around it being
Well, I might make an
identified during the
amendment for
previous
council.
workshop as one of the areas that gave the highest return on investment.
Yeah, but there was also another one as well.
Yep, so I suppose this is the one that's been put forward. If there is an alternate one that you want to put forward, that could be
I've
an
got
amendment.
5-10 minutes, haven't I? And obviously what happens here will change the
Yes.
operating surplus
Yep.
amount, so we'll have to amend that.
I've got those
before-
numbers when you're done.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct. So we'll go to, in fact, CEO, now's probably a good time to do that, given that we've clarified the numbers here. So this is our updated operating capital numbers.
All right, so the delivers an operating surplus of 4.976 and forecast borrowings of 82.295. Draft capital budget, capital expenditure of 98.546. Forgive me if I just double check one number.
Just while you're double checking that number, can I just check that the mover and the seconder are happy with that revised wording to 1 Part C, which was just the addition of with a further increase of 1.5?
Yes.
So, yes, you happy with that? Seconder, Councillor Giles, you happy with that? Thank you, CEO.
Can I ask a question just for the chair?
Certainly.
while the CEO's doing it. I still struggle with the wording. It sounds as if we're going to give 3.8 million because it says with a further increase. The sentence starts increase the allocation with a further increase subject to matching contribution. I just don't think that's.
I understood that's the intent of the mover, Lord Mayor.
So to recap, my understanding here is it's 805 at the moment, increased by another 705, which is largely what's proposed, and then in addition to that is seeking a matching 1.51 million from the state government.
But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say, it says with a further increase, and the increase implies we're allocating.
The increase is subject to.
But are we putting further increase of our money in? That's what it sounds
I
like.
know what you mean, Lord Mayor, so it could be misinterpreted that with a further increase is our money. So it's whether so members, can we just, it's a fair point.
All it needs to say is with a request for matching funds.
Matching contribution.
Yeah, that's what it needs to say.
Okay.
Because we're not increasing again 1.5.
So that,
It would increase, through the presiding member, it would increase the gross capital budget. That's why that presentation is important. Otherwise, you're netting the capital program off.
I think to the Lord Mayor's point, though, that's not another 1.51 million from council. That's state government money that's from a matching contribution.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
I think there's understanding that is the case, Lord Mayor.
Provided I have interpreted the intent of the mover.
Yes, and I'm seeing nods from the mover. Wonderful, thank you. Now,
One last number.
One last number, my apologies, CEO. And then after that, I have Councillor Freeman and Councillor Marr.
29.
Actually, Councillor.
721.
Thank you for those updates. Now, Councillor Freeman, because you moved the amendment, you're not able to speak to this. You have a question? Okay.
Yes, I have a question of the administration chair. Given we've now effectively added $1 million of investment to the budget, how would that be funded in this budget? Is that an increase to rates, fees, charges?
Through the presiding member, borrowings. You'll note we've adjusted the borrowings number.
Okay, just so everyone's aware.
Thank you. Councillor Marr, noting you've already spoken, do you have a question?
That was going to be my
That was your
follow-up question.
question.
Noting that I asked earlier for the consistency at 2 and 3, which the CEO has now provided, the follow-up question to that is, can we afford this? What are the implications of the increases to borrowing and the decrease to the operating surplus?
Through the presiding member, you've given us an instruction, we can implement it with a skinnier surplus and a higher level of debt.
Can I just clarify the question? Is that the operating surplus is sufficient to pay the interest of the borrowings? I think that's where the question's
that's the
coming from.
question. Can we afford this as is, or do we fall foul?
We'll need to make it work.
All right, we'll need. That's a yes. It can work.
Okay.
Okay, I have. So that was Councillor Marr. We have Deputy Lord Mayor, I believe, and then we're back to the mover.
I was going to ask a similar question because there is an operating surplus amount that's healthy for this particular council.
Yeah.
Are we within that range? And I guess the CEO actually said we can work with it, but there is a formula that is used, I recall,
Yep, CEO,
on
the
what
financial ratios.
a healthy operating surplus would be in this environment.
Through the presiding member, since the 7th of February, in every interaction with the council members, we have attempted to achieve a target of 5.283. We're a little bit south of that through these amendments, but my advice is we can make it work and we will provide the advice we need to through the quarterly reviews that follow the adoption of the budget when it gets through in June.
Thank you, CEO. There being no further comments or questions, I'm going to hand back to the mover, Councillor Martin.
Look, Chair, I don't have a great deal to add, except to reinforce that the first part of the motion, 1A, is, in my view, vital. It is important that our stakeholders understand the Main Street program and the capital allocation that's detailed in those pages that I previously mentioned, including page 101 of the papers tonight. The other matters are, for me, really important defining decisions in respect of this council. The greening program is something that we have hung our hats on. It is, apart from EV charging, the most significant contribution we've made to climate change. And I think moving forward into what is the last budget of this council, we need to restate that this is a priority. In respect of the school safety funding program, it is, and has always been for me, something of a disappointment that we've not elevated, the priority that we place on the lives of children, particularly in circumstances where we know there have been accidents, and one which occurred outside St Aloysius recently, but other accidents, so far not involving serious injury or death, but which nevertheless are a reminder that this is something that we need to elevate up the priority list, but also that we need to lobby government hard about. Now, we are fortunate that the Minister for Adelaide is in fact the member for the seat of Adelaide, and I have no doubt will understand that this is a priority also for her and her government. And putting our money where our mouth is, laying an expectation before her, I think gives the possibility of this getting some impetus, gives the possibility great strength. And finally, in respect of AIDA, it is for me a really important aspect of the operations of the authority that there is consideration of small business. Small business is, for me, the driver of economic activity in this city. This is a particular targeted program with a return on investment, and I take the Deputy Lord Mayor's position, but with a demonstrable return on investment, which was, I recall, the best of what was put on the table. Now, the details of that are as detailed in the papers for the March 23rd meeting. I simply ask members to endorse this.
Would you like an extension, Councillor Martin?
No, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to propose that we take part 1, then A, B, C, D in parts, and then the remainder will move en bloc. Is the mover happy with that? Yes. So all those in favour of part 1? All those opposed? Declare that carried. Now we're dealing with part A. All those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that carried. Sorry, we'll just do that vote again. Do you have a question, clarification, Councillor Couros?
I still don't understand what that means, sorry.
Yeah. So what we're doing is taking part 1. Yeah, we just.
I don't understand what we're asking for here. I just still don't understand it.
As in the debate around.
Now, but I need more clarification
Okay.
on what that actually means, because we have an item on the agenda in regards to that, so I don't understand how the two are going to speak to each other. So for now, I'll just vote against it.
So I'll come back then to part A, just to clarify. So all those in favour of part A? All those opposed? Part B, all those in favour? All those opposed? Part C, all those in favour? All those opposed? Part D, all in favour? All opposed? Declared part D carried unanimously. We're now on to the remainder of the items, which we can just bring up on screen. I'm proposing we do those together. All those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that carried. Thank you, members. That's the end of the meeting at 7:17 p.m. We'll now take about 5 minutes to get into the chamber. Thank you.
Yeah, what's it? Say that again. Quite a lot of information. There's a very large residential development there that goes back off the street. But I don't remember the motion that you recited. Yes.
This is so stupid. I'm furious.